I backed out of paying for my daughter's wedding because of her bridezilla demands. I, 45M, have a 22-year-old daughter, Diana, with my ex-wife, Michaela. Me and Michaela divorced when Diana was 10 due to unhappiness in the relationship. I felt neglected and she felt used. No bedroom activities and some financial issues added to the stress, and eventually we divorced. We have stayed on relatively good terms because of Diana. Diana is getting married in 5 months. Me and Diana have a wonderful relationship. We talk almost every day, and I really like her soon-to-be husband. I agreed to pay a large portion of the wedding cost. Her mom and her now husband are paying nothing towards it besides a few cases of cheap wine, so I remarried to Kylie, 31F, when Diana was 14. Overall, the girls got along. I never noticed any tension until our son, 6M, was born. Diana stopped coming over as much because she didn't like babies. She has gotten past that and will hang out with her half-brother now. As we are going over details for the wedding, I noticed my wife's name wasn't on the table next to me. I asked Diana where her stepmom's spot was. She said, "Oh, I didn't know she would be coming." I asked why she thought her stepmom wouldn't be coming. She said, "Assumed she would be at home watching the kid." I said, "Isn't your stepbro invited?" She kind of shrugged and said, "If y'all want him to come." She didn't even think about my side of the family. Well, then I find out she wants me to walk down the aisle alongside her new stepdad. I backed out of paying for my daughter's wedding because of her bridezilla demands. Update. My ex remarried 4 years ago to a guy with a 10-year-old son. He's a douche. You can tell a mile off. He's always got this smug look across his face. I can't believe this. So she wanted us both to walk her down the aisle, which I found ridiculous because this guy showed up in her life at 18 and has hardly raised her like I have. Then I find out she has her stepbrother involved in the wedding and not our son. She couldn't even answer why she did this. She also said she wanted her stepdad to do half the father-daughter dance, right after she dances with her mom. I asked if Kylie was going to be involved at all in the wedding, and she said no, which I found disrespectful because Kylie literally helped raise Diana and was always there for her. Kylie had been in Diana's life since 12 years old and has always treated her like a daughter. At this point, I told Diana that I would no longer be funding this wedding, as I felt like me, her stepmom, and her half-bro were being disrespected. She started crying, calling me petty and saying they won't be able to pay for it themselves. I said, "Well, maybe your stepdad can pony up a little more than a few cases of wine, or your mom can figure something out." My ex-wife called me and said, "I'm being Ann. I told her to pony up her man's money if she has such an issue with it, or shut up, because I feel like I have to look out for all members of my family, not just Diana." I used my adopted brother's share of the inheritance as a deposit on a house. I'm almost 26 years old, and for the majority of my childhood, I was moved from house to house without ever feeling like I belonged. By the time I was 9, I think I had lived in 17 different foster families. Nowhere wanted me, I was troubled, and couldn't form emotional bonds because of how awful I had been treated. And so I acted awfully to every set of foster parents I got, until I was moved in with an amazing couple named P and S. I was almost 10 by this point. Everyone was telling me this would be my new family, but I had heard it all before and didn't believe a word. P and S had a child already. Tim was 17 years old and an amazing person who I grew to love. My new parents were everything I needed at that point. They were caring, understanding. They gave me space, but let me express my affection to them when I wanted to without ever pressuring me. After a year, I started to believe what everyone told me. They were my new family. Obviously, I'm leaving out a lot here for the sake of the character limit, but what I'm trying to say is I grew to think of them as my real parents, and they grew to think of me as their real son. Sadly, Tim got substance problems in his early 20s and has been in and out of hospital and rehabs ever since. P passed away after being in a fatal crash. My one regret in life is that I never called P Dad to his face. I was too scared of rejection, and so every time I tried, the word just never came out. I just wish I could go back and say it to him. After P passed, I plucked up the courage to call S Mom a few times, and she cried when I first did. She said they had been waiting for years, and that Dad was so proud of me. It still hurts so much even now. Less than 6 months later, S found out she had the big C, and sadly passed away in less than a year. This was the perfect time for me to take advantage of my now very privileged circumstances. I used my adopted brother's share of the inheritance as a deposit on a house. Update. Tim was a shell of the person I met at 9 years old. It hurt seeing him like that. Our parents had a lot of saving, and Mom made me promise to give Tim the time to get sober. She told me to not give him any access to any money, no matter how hard it was. I kept the promise I made to her. No matter how much he begged and guilted me, I never gave him a penny. Mom told me to keep it for 5 years after she passed, and if he wasn't completely sober by then, I was to use it to buy a house and set myself up. 5 years passed. Tim had made no progress in becoming sober, so I did what Mom told me to, and I used his share to set myself up. It's been 3 years since then, and Tim is finally sober and has been asking for his part of the inheritance. I told him it was gone, and he went crazy at me, saying I had no right to take his parents' money like that. Now I can't help but feel so guilty. I think I should have waited at least 10 years, and I'm considering selling my house to give him his half. My wife says not to. IDKG what to do. I told my daughter's stepdad that the only reason she loves him is that he coddles her. I, 44M, have 2 kids, a 19-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old son. Their mother and I divorced about 10 years ago. After our divorce, both my son and daughter lived with their mom because she lived in a better school zone, and I don't think my daughter or her mom have wanted me in their lives since. During and after our divorce, the main thing my ex-wife and I have fought about is discipline. And when we were married, she usually disagreed with the way I disciplined our daughter. I want to be clear that I don't believe in and have never laid hands on either of my kids. However, I do believe in many older types of discipline, such as grounding, loss of privileges, etc. And I don't think my ex-wife is a bad parent by any means, but she's very permissive, and there have been many situations, especially with my daughter, that I think she handled poorly. For example, my daughter has called her mother for a ride home because she was intoxicated several times. The first time it happened, I told my ex-wife to let her deal with it on her own so she would learn. And my ex drove her home every time and put her in therapy instead, which I was fine with, but I wasn't fine with the lack of consequences. When she turned 18, I suggested she start paying her mom rent. But she kept telling me that she agreed to let her live there for free until she finishes college so she can save up money for after she graduates, despite the fact that she works full-time and can easily afford it. Pretty much any attempt I make at teaching her any type of responsibility gets rebuffed, and it's been very frustrating. My daughter has always favored her mom over me because she lets her get away with more, and as a result, she's very distant from me. When her mom got remarried, our relationship got worse, as my daughter was very accepting of her mom's new husband and has always been very warm and friendly to him, and the contrast between how she treated him and how she treated me was really hurtful. A few days ago, while I was at their house picking up my son, I overheard my daughter calling her mom's husband Dad, and that was it for me. I told my daughter's stepdad that the only reason she loves him is that he coddles her. Update: I didn't say anything in front of my son and texted both my ex-wife and her husband later that day, telling them that I was tired of them letting my daughter disrespect me and that she shouldn't be calling him Dad. And when he responded with a bunch of nonsense about how he can't control what she calls him and that my daughter loves him like a father figure, and I told him that that was only because he coddles her. He literally spends whatever he can to get my daughter on his side. The little rat, next time I see him, we will be having more than words if I can help it. That's what I was thinking until my daughter sent me a long text, shortly after which was basically about how her mom and stepdad actually treat her like a person. And I told her to stop, and that I've always loved her and treated her fairly, and that nothing has changed that, and that she needs to grow up, but she didn't want to hear it. I don't think I'm the bad guy, but after reading her text, I just want to see what other people think. My relationship started as a prank, and now I don't know what to do. I have 5 friends, 2 female and 3 male, all in their early 20s, and they have been annoying me for some time about being single. I've never had a girlfriend, and I was the one who got made fun of the most for being single. Usually their jokes were lighthearted, but on occasions, they were not. Some of their jokes were really low, but I let them slide because we were friends. Although I never forgot them, they were more like insults to me, but I never showed it. About 2 months ago, they introduced me to a girl. Let's call her Emily, and we became friends pretty quickly. Soon we discovered that we have a few things in common, so our friendship turned into a relationship. Considering we were early into the relationship, things felt a bit weird for me. We bonded really quickly, and we enjoyed spending time together. 2 or 3 days ago, I went out with 2 of my friends. We were having fun talking about stuff until one of them asked me why Emily hadn't dumped me yet. I asked him what that was supposed to mean, and he told me that our relationship is a prank. I asked him to explain, and he told me that all 5 of them were on board to prank me by having Emily play the role of being my girlfriend for about a week before dumping me. That was the plan originally, to which Emily agreed. That didn't go as they planned, and they then thought that she might pretend to be my girlfriend a bit longer before eventually dumping me. That also didn't happen, and Emily stopped hanging out with them. She pretty much cut them off from her life after we started dating. We got into a verbal fight that lasted some time, led nowhere, so I called them melts and left. To say the least, I was really angry, and I called Emily immediately after leaving them to talk to her about this. When we met, she wanted to hug me, which I denied, and I didn't wait for a single second before asking her about this stupid prank. My relationship started as a prank, and now I don't know what to do. Update. She became pale on the spot and started crying and apologizing for it. She admitted almost immediately that she was indeed on board with that, but she also said that she dropped the prank entirely and decided to stay because she genuinely likes me. She likes that I treat her with respect, trust, and kindness. I asked when she was planning on telling me this, and she told me that she didn't know when or how to even say it. She said that she doesn't want to play with people's emotions and that even agreeing to this was so wrong. But in hindsight, it turned out good because she met me. That's why she hid it from me. Our conversation didn't last long, and I went home. I blocked all my friends on all accounts, numbers, everything. I don't want to see them again. I don't know what to do with Emily. She keeps sending apologies, asking me not to break up, and that she will make up for it. I don't know what to do. If she lied and manipulated me into this, what will she lie about or manipulate me into tomorrow? I would find this entire situation comical if it weren't happening to me. Right now, I'm so disappointed in everything, mostly in myself.